Hi guys, Coach Victor Robledo today, and I'm going to tell you why your aching back doesn't get better. And this has been a point of frustration for me because I see so many people that surf or do jujitsu or actually do both suffer for an extended period of time. And actually, I've gone down this route, but because I have the knowledge, I know how to treat myself right away. And let's first start to talk about a little bit about the musculature associated with this particular ailment. This is an overactive psoas. And everyone who knows a little bit about the physical body knows that the psoas can wreak havoc on the lumbar spine. But what they don't know is how to treat it and how to stay with it. Now, you can definitely set up an appointment with me and I'll hold you accountable to doing the therapy. But guess what? That information is there. I'm giving it to you so you can do that. Before we go on, guys, please make sure you like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm. And you can also check out some of the products I sell, some of the courses I sell down in the description. It helps me, it helps my family, and this way I can up the content. So before we go on, I had a chance to move out of, we sold all of our stuff, moved into RV, traveled the world. I got to surf all over the place, train all over the place, and I still train with my kids every day, trying to figure out, we're in a tough spot in the world right now, trying to figure out how I'm gonna keep my own jiu-jitsu training up. But until then, we're gonna figure out how to get you out of pain. So the psoas simply does this. Right? Now, most people know what that does, but the problem is that they don't know that it's actually a fight or flight muscle. And if you think about it, the psoas doing this, it does two things. So you see a bear, it comes, run away. Okay? The other thing it does, you see a bear, you curl up. And so those two actions can describe the potential state that an individual gets in. So what does that mean? From a small scale, yes, you can have this chronic low back injury, but I also see people alerted and in a state of chronic sort of alertness that can lead to a whole host of issues. Essentially, your breathing starts to change and it can wreak havoc on your general health. It's important to squash this, guys. So let's go on to some basic strategies. Now, the first thing is you could take time off, but who wants to do that? And that's actually honestly what a doctor will do is give you medications and you take it off. But first strategy is to work on mobilizing and relaxing the area. And so in my facilities and in our little dojo here, one of the simple strategies is to myofascial release this. So a little anatomy, right? If I cut you open, scooped you out, the psoas and the iliopsoas complex is on the lumbar spine. So it's on this side. That's why you have that chronic achiness. So if we scoop the guts out, it's access to the front. So you go, hey, Victor, how am I supposed to get to it if it's this way? Well, we can get a lot of positive if we're working into the lumbar spine. You lay down on your back on a tennis ball or even using the block as well. And I'm going to show you that in a second. Now, if you're making this face and you're doing your myofascial release, it's too intense. We got to make it to a point that you're relaxing. So these are some simple strategies to mobilize. Myofascial release is should be a big part of your training protocol so that you stay active. So first off, laying on your back. Take your tennis ball, place it on the floor, right into the lumbar spine. And just hang out here. You can actually elevate this leg, place it up on the wall, and that pushes the low back into the ground. Okay? Now the second thing is that you'll find a lot of people will talk about myofascial release and they'll dig in anteriorly. Now look, you're getting into a bag of worms a little bit there because if you're accessing too aggressively, your guts are all there. And a lot of people are like, man, that's deep. And so if you're not working with a healthcare practitioner or someone that really knows what they're doing, you can essentially injure yourself and poke yourself into areas you shouldn't. So what I like to use with my clients is because those nerves from that psoas run out and we can get close to them, is you can just lay on a ball and a yoga block this way and access it from the front. So I'm showing you here standing so you could see it. So if you come down, your xiphoid process is here, my navel is here. I go over a couple inches and up just a little bit. Another access point is your anterior superior iliac spine. That's that bony prominence of the front of the hip. If you go up and in, you'll find the same point, right? Now, we're getting proximal, getting kind of close, and so that tends to relax the tissue. So you're gonna lay down on the ball here this way. So this is what it looks like standing. Then we'll go laying down so you can see it. I usually flare my knee out and I just breathe. So once you start off with that, we're mobilizing it. Now we've released the area. Now it's time to activate a little bit and get a little blood flow. So that's where you would work in a little light leg work to engage the glutes. Now, why is that important? An overactive psoas tends to create glute inhibition on that side. Whew, what does that mean? This, again, science terms. Don't freak out, guys. Stay with it. All right, so if this psoas is overactive, this glute doesn't want to function right. So if you've had this for some time, you should actually, if you can feel back there, you'll actually find that one side on that glute side will be a little bit atrophied. It will get a little smaller. You potentially won't be able to squeeze that glute. And that's why I say some light squats, even body weight, if you know how to do them, or even a bent leg bridge to kind of activate that area. So you have myofascial release, we activate, then we integrate a little bit, and then we can get into some movement. So a couple sets of body weight squats, a few lunges, feeling it in the right areas. Again, we can get more into that on another video. And then we come back to some mobility work and stretching. And my favorite one is honestly using the yoga block. And it'll tell you the severity of your psoas issues by how you lay on this. So we find your sacrum, not your lumbar spine. So that's down here for me. And I'm going to take the yoga block on the lowest setting and I'm going to lay on it this way. So that creates this sort of micro back bend into my back. And then from there, I'm going to work on my breath work so that I can relax the tissue. How do you know where, if you're feeling it right, you're feeling a little bit across the hip. The psoas is origined on the lumbar spine, comes out the front and loops in here. And so if we just breathe into there, it helps to relax that area. Be cognizant of that position. If you're feeling too much pressure in your low back, tuck the pelvis under, or you could use something even smaller than this. A couple variations I'll show you here. So hips are elevated. You start off here, extending the legs, toes kind of flaring out, and you're just relaxing. This generally feels pretty amazing. If your psoas is real tight, or it'll tip out your pelvis and you won't be able to do this without a lot of discomfort, just keep the knees bent. Maybe go one leg at a time, maybe go partial bend and butterfly out a little bit. Now, once we've done that, and that muscle's released, then we go into lunge stretches to try to loosen up the area. So from here. Now, normally I see most people come into this position and get into this real archy back. Look, all we're trying to do is here. So you kind of have to do a little trick with the hips. We're in that lunge position, tuck the pelvis under, lean forward. Right, and make sure you do both sides. You'll feel a difference across the front of the hip. We want to minimize any low back discomfort. Now we've given you guys a few strategies to try to relax that psoas. The other thing that you have to be aware of is that you got to make sure the muscle is functioning, and that's where some good strength training comes in. Now, another element, you want to train and not drain. And so a lot of people always tell me like, hey, especially jiu-jitsu and surfing come together. How much is enough? And I go, look, you have to pick which one you want to be in. So if you're in season competing, then you obviously want to make sure you control the total amount that you're surfing, because that's going to drain you for the mat. Now, look, if you're 20 and you have low responsibilities, a recovery rate that's high, then obviously you could probably do both as much as you want and not have any issues. But the vast majority of us are not. And so you want to be able to balance it out. So I usually tell my friends, instructors, people that I'm close to, if you're surfing an hour and a half with good nutrition, in adjustment, alternating with your jiu-jitsu, that's usually enough that you can recover from. And then you can train hard and avoid injuries. So the last element is throwing in some resistance training, which I have videos on here. And let me know in the comments if you guys, what you're asking about. Everyone's strength training program has certain elements, but exercises are tools to help you live the most active lifestyle. So I'm not going to come up here, you got to bench, squat, deadlift. Certainly those are important, valuable tools, but not everyone needs to do them. And certainly for me, I like some variety, but there are some important movements there: a push, a pull, a hinge, a lunge, carries, swings, things like that. If I describe the basic, those should be part of your training program. And depending on where you're at in life, the importance of certain things, you can shift a little more emphasis for jiu-jitsu, a little more emphasis for surfing, maybe hiking, maybe whatever it is. And so leave any questions you guys might have in the comments, and we can go from there, guys. All right, get out there, train.